Hi all, Cullen Haynes here and welcome to Lawyer Lending Live. My next guest is actually one of our own, 5 years in banking and been with us over two, my friend, colleague and esteemed legend of lending specialist at Legal Home Loans, Mr. Mitch Moroney. How are we today, Mitch?
Doing very well, Colin. How you doing?
I'm good, mon ami. We're here to talk about banker churn. My banker left me and commercial lending in the age of banker churn. Let's get straight into it, mon ami. What is banker churn and what is this phenomenon of leading lawyers, partners, barristers being orphaned at the banks?
It's a thing that we're seeing more and more recently. I don't know what's in the water, but very high expectations, high net wealth clients, special counsels, partners who go to the private banks, depending on the lenders, they're not getting the love that they used to. The biggest point that's being raised is that these clients who do have complex lending, they do require kind of special consideration. They're almost being passed around. So
Yes.
yeah, the internal churn and burn, as you said, is that they're having one private banker for a few months at a time, and then getting reintroduced to a new private banker, and then reintroduced to a new private banker who all don't have the relationship that they started with. So it's imperative that they go to a bank and kind of have the security, knowing that they're going to have a point of contact for a set amount of time or a longer period of time, just so that they have the confidence in that bank, in that banker, which is it's a relationship piece. And when you're at this level of your career, especially in the legal industry, you want to have a relationship that you can go back to without the concern of having to be reintroduced to a new person.
Absolutely. I'm endeared by what you're saying. We actually had a client that was in, like, got 4 letters in 1 year. Hi, I'm your new banker. Hi, I'm your new banker. 4 times. And on that fourth letter, they got in contact and said, this is rubbish. I'm more valuable than having been passed around. Also, there's the other phenomenon of not having a banker at all. All the good bankers are leaving. Rates are going up. The banks are contracting. And there's many, many leading clients out there that have been orphaned. It's a real thing, and you are being charged the loyalty tax until someone comes in and saves you. So that's definitely a real problem that's happening. But in terms of
Yeah.
commercial lending, what are we seeing at the moment within those banks? Because there's separate tiers in the banks that not many people know about.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, just to touch on the loyalty tax and people kind of getting forgotten. I've had 2 or 3 clients recently that it's almost like they
Yes.
fall into financial limbo. They're
Yes.
still technically under the private arm, but with no dedicated representative to look after them. So you'd actually be better off being in the residential side of banking, or like the public banking, because you'd be able to deal with the bank directly. Whereas unfortunately, these clients are just kind of stuck in the middle of nowhere. So we've helped both of them out to move lenders recently, and they're having a much better relationship now, and they actually have a point of contact who's been able to assist them. So yeah, it's a real thing at the moment, just this financial limbo with banks restructuring their private banking requirements and whatnot, whether that's income or asset value or total lending. So it's something that we're keeping an eye on. But yeah, so commercial finance, so it's really blown up for us in the last 6 to 12 months, which is exciting because it's something that we definitely did want to push for more, make sure that our clients realize that we do play in that commercial space just as much as we do in the residential. So our volumes are starting to increase, and I think more and more clients are aware that we are able to assist and really get good, favorable outcomes for our clients commercially. But we're doing secured, unsecured, attach it to your property. If you attach it to your property, up to 80% LVR of the total lending of your residential property value. Unsecured, we can do up to 100%, so you can borrow the full amount. It's really funny at the moment. We're getting the best of both worlds. We have some lenders that will offer the most favorable terms. So
Yes.
15 years, 5 years interest only, unsecured, for chambers, for example, which we're doing quite often. But then we also have those same lenders that will match any rates that another bank is offering. So although another bank may not have the greatest terms, they may have better rates. We're able to kind of get you the best rate and the best terms, depending on what you're looking to do. And yeah, like right now, this time of year, I think Chambers, I've had 4 or 5 inquiries in the last week and a half alone. At the end of the year, some people moving rooms, retiring. It's kind of you don't need it until you need it kind of situation. So it's been booming recently.
No, definitely. And in point of fact, not naming names, but we've had one big 4 bank have to hire more staff and build out their professional services team, and even get us in Legal Home Loans to train their staff on what is a Chambers, how do we do lending, and how can we get 100%. We've very rarely done that because you're right, it has been booming. And we get those instances, especially with barristers, when the new room comes up, all 10 coming to us and we go, are you in the running? Oh yeah, I'm at the top of the list. Yeah, I'm at the top of the list, but you need finance. You need to get it done. On that unsecured space, could there be a lot of readers, barristers, and those watching not understanding what do you mean by unsecured? Are you telling me and everyone listening, Mitch, that you don't need to secure it against commercial or residential property with these unsecured options with leading banks?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. So a lot of people don't realize you don't have to have a security against the loan, especially for this case, for a Chambers loan. Like I said, this particular lender that we're dealing with on a regular basis has really kind of grown their knowledge about what a Chambers is, how it functions, shared draft agreements, that kind of stuff. Because if you go to the wrong lender and you explain, you try and get a Chambers, you have to spend half the time trying to explain what a Chambers is, what a barrister is, what you do.
I think it's a Harry Potter book or something. Chambers.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a Harry Potter reference, which is not what you want, and it's not a great way to start the relationship. So having a lender that knows what a Chambers is, understands how they function, understanding how barrister income works. So again, with Chambers, we deal with a lot of relatively new barristers who've obviously been in the industry for 10 years, but they've become a barrister in the last 12 to 24 months. Again, a lot of them think that they can't get finance for a Chambers until 2 years. That's not the case. We've done multiple now barristers in the first 2 years of them joining the bar, and the lender understands that their income is exponentially growing. So whatever their income is now, it's almost expected to double the next year. They have all these ways of determining your servicing that's actually in the favor of a new barrister, so they can stretch their income as much as possible. And they can do it 100% unsecured. So you don't need to do a deposit or anything towards it. They'll, assuming servicing, be able to lend the full amount. It even works the same as a residential property. You actually get a Chambers pre-approval. Because again, with Chambers rooms, you don't really know until probably the last second that you have actually been accepted for a new Chambers room, and you want to be able to have your finance ready to go. You can get a pre-approval that's valid for 120 days, so that if you know it's on the radar, you can jump on a room and take advantage of those opportunities as they come. Because again, Chambers rooms are far in between, and you do need to jump at the opportunities to get them.
Yeah, of course. Now, in terms of, we talked about unsecured, there is a metric this certain lender uses in terms of lending to you. Now, you could have your draft financials ready, your previous financials. In a nutshell, what can you lend? What's the magic formula that we've trained the bank to use in this respect?
Yeah, so generally speaking, again, they'll do a full servicing, but just so you have a rough idea, it's going to be 3 times your taxable income as a barrister, 3 times your taxable income minus $120,000, which is what they factor in as a reasonable amount for wages. So that's generally what you're looking to borrow. So if you made, say, $200,000 in your first year, minus $120,000 wage, times by 3, 240,000. They'll lend up to 240,000, 100% unsecured, 15 years interest only, and that's pretty much the metric that they work on. So yeah, it's a pretty good metric. Again, most other lenders don't have the 3 times. Some lenders will do 1.5. Some lenders will only do half your taxable income, which doesn't work in the favors of barristers, more so with firms and and that kind of stuff. So again, if you're a barrister, you need to go to a lender that understands barrister income and chambers and the structure of it, and they're able to kind of offset the risk by understanding the product a little bit better than others.
No, that's so true. And secured, let's look at the secured side of things. If someone did have ample equity in their home, what's the rate on the unsecured versus if you want to put it against your residential or commercial property?
So obviously rates are just going crazy, and every second email we get is a rate increase. But just indicatively at the moment, unsecured 100%, you're going to be looking 8 to 9% across the board. Obviously, we'll try and get as sharp as possible as of right now. Secured, more favorable. So you're looking 4 to 5% secured. You can do 30 years secured. You can go up to 80% of your residential property. So assuming you have a good amount of equity, you can release up to 80%, including your residential loan. So kind of whatever works for you. A lot of barristers, in my experience, prefer to have their business debt separate to their property residential, and kind of the separation between church and state, as you would say, Colin. So having them separate is generally preferable. And again, having the interest only option on the unsecured does make the actual repayment quite modest in the scheme of things. So definitely have the option to do secured if you have the property and the equity. But from my experience, most barristers do take up the unsecured option.
No, I think, and it is tax deductible, and there are interest only components if you want to minimize your cash flow, which is most important to a self-employed sole trader like barristers and those at the bar. They have to be a sole trader. I don't think I'm still yet to meet a barrister who actually pays down their chambers P&I. They all seem to do it interest only. And we actually had a barrister recently, I think it was one of your clients, Mitch, that previously had paid or not been able to finance their chambers years ago. And now we're actually taking the chambers which had nothing on it and taking it up to 500,000 and using that as tax deductible debt. That's a great strategy. David Gale, leading family lawyer, has come in, Mitch, and said, incredible that you are educating the lenders. So your side understands, the lender understands, and the lender has also had no doubt in trust because of the relationships we've built. That is the real value to your clients. Thank you, David. We really appreciate that feedback. And it's been a long time coming. Get 4 years into this business, actually being able to do that with our lending partners. It's a two-way street because we deal with leading legal professionals like yourself, David, barristers, partners, day in and day out. It only makes sense that we teach these banks. I think 2 weeks ago, Mitch, we had a barrister coming up to us because they had an interesting discussion with the banker. What did the banker think they did for a job?
Oh, they made coffees.
They thought they were a barista. How many coffees do you have to make to earn this? This is crazy.
They were shocked at their income for a cafe.
No, that is one mistake you don't want to make. Mr. Jaramillo, another one of our leading lending specialists at Legal Home Loans, is dropping in. Thank you, Josh. Very interesting insight on commercial lending. Could you explain the difference between an overdraft and a line of credit, and is it the most common amongst self-employed professionals? That's a great question.
I'll leave it to you, Josh.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's a good little segue into me. So a line of credit versus an overdraft. A line of credit is a very, let me say, old hat way of doing business at the banks. They do still offer them. It's about 5 to 6 to 7% plus. It's usually residentially lent. It's basically, say you want to invest in shares or property or otherwise, say it's 200,000, you invest that against your property and you can draw against it and pay it back. And as I said, it's those rates. Now, what that looks like in turn versus a overdraft account, overdraft is specifically for your business. And it can be unsecured. There's usually, again, a 5, 6, 7% rate attached to it, but it's more for business purposes, specifically growing your business, paying invoices, etc. So it's in the two different channels of the bank there, Josh, and it's a great question. The line of credit is in the residential portion. You don't need a commercial banker. The overdraft does sit inside the commercial or professional services arm of the bank. and you would need a specialist banker to tackle that. Now, if we look to the line of credits, we don't write as many as we used to, and we're not suggesting clients get onto that product. There is another way to get the line of credit benefit of having a recurring line next to your home loan. You can get what's called a variable interest only facility, which does a very similar thing. The benefit is you don't make repayments until you need the funds, and it's a lower interest rate. That is a little lending hack, not financial advice, but you can look into that. But this is, of course, a commercial topic that we are diving into. Do many people know, Mitch, that there are these two hidden portions of the bank, the commercial and the private bank behind the scenes? What do most people think there are out there?
I think more and more people understand that the commercial arm is separate to the residential, because I think they do try and reach out to banks directly, and they realize it's a lot harder to reach the commercial team.
Yes.
So I think a broker is actually really important for both, but definitely for commercial banking. Just being able to leverage a broker's relationship with a commercial team is really important. Private bank, again, unless you're quite a high income earning client where
Yes.
you've been probably recommended a private banker for quite a while, if a lot of people don't realize they actually have access to private banking if they are buying over a certain price in terms of property, which is becoming more and more common, especially in like Sydney markets, because property values are just so much higher. Or even high income earning clients looking to buy their first real sizable asset. We have barristers that are on $400,000 or $500,000 income,
Correct,
in the first 2 to 3 years, which again is a huge exponential increase on their income. So they're not even aware of what they're able to access, who they should be talking to, and these kind of things. And at the end of the day, the whole point of the private bank is so that you have a relationship with that bank, so that you can have a direct point of contact to go back and forth with, rather than calling the 1-800 anyone line.
Your call, you are a very important person, and your call is important to us. Please wait 3 hours and we will answer your call.
Nonsense. You are 57th in queue. Something like that.
Absolutely. And the benefit with going with you, Mitch, as a broker and one of our lending specialists, you get both our Australian and US office in one. So that's quite good. And I know I've used that before. What I want to say about the private bank is, because of our unique relationships with both the private bank and the commercial bank, we get things over the line that other banks can't. Clients have bought a property, say in Mermaid Beach. They want 90% against it. They walk into the retail arm of the bank and they get flat battered. No, you cannot. We recently done a deal for a client, bought in a unique area, needed 90%, waived LMI. Everyone said no. Even on the bespoke income we were trying to get across the line, we engaged a private bank and a banker was allocated, and we managed to get that deal over the line on bespoke terms without paying LMI, etc. So it is available. It's not what you know in banking, it's who you know. And that's the biggest message I want people to walk away with. You could be talking to someone at the bank, even that offers these specialist products. That person may have no idea about them, and it is very, very common. We had a client pay LMI when they didn't need to. And then when we told them, go, why did I pay that? I went with the bank that offered it. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. In terms of...
I was going to even say on further than that, Colin, because that's like the private bank being able to do stuff, is that the commercial bank, people don't realize, is actually similar in the fact that they're able to do stuff that normal residential, the public bank can't do. And so we've had quite a few situations. Unfortunately, when you apply through the public bank residentially, like you said, it's very black and white. If you don't meet their policy, it's not really a discussion. They just tell you yes or no. Whereas a commercial bank, similar to the private bank, they have so much more freedom in terms of assessing income. So they can use interim financials, they can use accounting confirmations, they can use most recent BAS statements if your most recent financials aren't the income that you need. If you've had a much better year this year but haven't lodged returns and that kind of stuff. I've had a client in the last week that they obviously had a dip in FY21. 20s were strong, 21s were low due to COVID, and then 22s is expected to be almost 4 times the income that we want to use. this bank or the commercial bank is going to be able to rest on interim financials with a confirmation from the accountant. So you can even do, and even to access a commercial bank, if you're looking for residential property, you can do something that's called a dual application. So you can apply for a business loan. So if you want to get a chambers pre-approval or organize a business overdraft, even a modest one, and you're also buying a property that's residential and owner occupied, doesn't even need to be investment. What we do is a dual app where we'll have them submitted simultaneously, and both applications will be reviewed by the commercial banker on commercial terms. So you get actually the better policy whilst also getting both products. So yeah, not too many people are aware of these ways to kind of get better outcomes for you based on what your financials are and who you're talking to.
Very good. Very good. Now, I don't want people to get confused. The private bank, there are limits to get into that bank, correct? Like, so private bank is that white glove service. You don't pay any extra for it if you come through us, but you do get a specialist banker looking after your needs. Private bank, what's the minimum lending or the income to get into those banks?
It's dependent on bank to bank. So we have banks that will actually either focus on income or asset or loan value. So just very generally speaking, if you're making over 300,000, there's lenders that we can get you into the private bank.
Yes.
And they don't actually even specify on what the purchase price or the loan amount is. I've got a client at the moment that's on very, very strong income, close to $1 million,
Yes.
but they're only buying a $1.5 million property at 80%. We're doing that through a private banker. And they're getting that experience, even though it's a modest lend. They're buying into the fact that they want this client on their books, a little bit less so than this specific deal in particular. They would assume that would lead to more deals down the future. Further than that, we have the other banks. Some banks have considerably higher restrictions where they'll need minimum $5 million lending at the bank, or they need income to exceed 400,000 and that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, if your income's over 250, 300,000, and we need a private bank relationship, we have lenders that will do it for you in that situation.
Of course we do. Of course we do. Now, and on the commercial side of things, what gets you into a commercial bank? Any commercial element like an overdraft, chambers loan, etc.
Any commercial facility. So even a $50,000 commercial overdraft, if you're doing that and have a $3 million property purchase, you can have all of that submitted into the commercial bank, essentially to be reviewed by them. So there's no minimum spend there with the commercial team.
Okay, so that's good. There's no minimum spend there. Okay, and is it possible to get one banker in one, or will you always have multiple bankers? Because we've had instances where a client is both a private, commercial banker, and they've got us. What happens in those instances usually?
In those instances, we hope that they can get one banker that will oversee everything, because you don't want them to deal with too much. We will always be there as well as your broker. So regardless if worst comes to worst and your banker is changing, you have a dedicated broker that's going to be there the whole way through, making sure that you're not getting passed around too much. But ideally, you'd have one person looking after everything.
Absolutely. High level walkaway points. Obviously, we touched on it. 80%, 30-year terms for commercial property in this market. Is that still available?
That is still available.
Interest only as well?
Yeah, interest only as well. Up to 5 years.
I love that. So just to recap, guys, you're buying a cafe, you're buying an office, etc. 30 years, up to 80%. Separate to, don't get it confused with the 90% no LMI policy. That's still available for legal professionals with a practicing certificate, Mitch?
Yeah, that will be in the residential space. If you're buying a home property or investment property,
yes,
absolutely. All you need is a practicing certificate, and we can help you go to a lender that will waive LMI up to 90% LVR.
And there's no cap on that, I believe. We had a client purchase for the princely sum of $9.5 million in one of the eastern suburbs.
Mr. Josh Jarmiller, the one who was piping in before, I think that was a PB for company-wide. So that was very, very impressive.
Well done, Josh, indeed. And good shout out there, Mitch. What is the current, just so everyone can walk away high level illumined, what's the current leading secured commercial rate indicatively? What's the current unsecured rate and just the resi rates right now? It's just so people can do a sense check and go, oh my goodness, I'm paying overs at the moment.
Yep. So secured commercial, you're looking high fours, low fives at the moment. Unsecured, you're looking pretty much low to mid eights. Unsecured, and then residentially speaking, owner occupied variable, you're looking pretty much low mid fours currently. Investment, you're looking mid to high fours variable, and then obviously we can discuss fixed rates and that kind of stuff if you're so inclined.
Tailor it. And you in particular, Mitch, your pod in legal home loans, you're shooting the lights out in terms of the outcomes you're getting to clients. There's this thing I'm overhearing in the conversations. A certain lender is giving clients what's called the trifecta. I'd love to know what this trifecta is so people know, my goodness, that sounds really good. What is the trifecta, Mitch, that you're able to get clients?
The three things that you're looking at when either you're buying or refinancing a property is obviously you want a good rate. You want as minimal fees as possible, and you want a rebate. You want some cash in your pocket if you can. We have a lender right now that will match any rate, so they're the most competitive rate. They'll give rebates for both purchases and refinances, which purchase rebates are very, very far in between. And they're currently waiving the annual fee for the life of the loan. So that's almost $12,000 of fees over the life of the loan being waived. So they kind of tick all three boxes. And on top of that, their turnaround times are unbelievable. We've had refinances that have been submitted and formally approved within 48 hours, which is unheard of. So if you want to hear more about that, yeah, absolutely. Definitely inquire to learn a bit more.
DM right now and just beefing out that annual fee waiver. $395 per year is what most banks charge. So do the maths on that, or math. If you go to America, just do the math. 30 years times $395 is $11,800. It's almost 12 grand in fees that you are getting waived with this lender. I think that's fantastic and a great outcome for those where rates are going up. Obviously, the RBA's thinking it might take it to 3.5. Westpac came out there and Goldman Sachs, they think it's going to be 4.1, the cash rate. So anything in your pocket is always good, especially whether you're going retail, private, or commercial. Absolutely. One key takeaway, Mitch, before we close that you'd like everyone in LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook land to walk away with?
It's just come talk to us. If you're unsure about where you fit in regards to the financial landscape, if you're a client at the moment who's in the private bank, who's being passed around and you don't like the relationship, if you're looking for commercial finance and you've never done it before, if you're looking for 90% property and you want LMI waived, if you are a legal professional, you should be coming to talk to us. Anything finance. So if you have any questions or anything whatsoever, please reach out.
Love that, Mitch. Vendor agnostic, from baby barristers to managing partners, first home buyers to big refinances, come and speak to us. Thanks for joining Lawyer Lending Live, Mitch, and everyone have a salubrious Wednesday. Make it count.